All right, you're listening to Your Wheeling, No Two Ways About It. I'm Chad Ballman, Vice Mayor of the City of Wheeling, in the studio with co-host Mayor Glenn Elliott, and we have newly elected Councilman Jerry Slavinakis joining us. Jerry, thanks for being here.
Chad and Glenn, I appreciate the opportunity to come down here and speak to you all and the citizens of Wheeling regarding the issues that face our city.
You sound so professional.
Well, I'm trying. You know, I've heard you guys, and I notice there's a lot of vice mayor this and mayor that. So it seems that you guys are trying to keep it professional, and I appreciate that, respect that, and we'll follow through.
Now, sometimes we call you the Greek.
Okay.
Now, do you want to go by Councilman Slavinakis or the Greek?
Well, I mean, I don't know. This is your show. You guys take it any way you want.
Jerry, we appreciate you coming on the show. So a lot of stuff to talk about. Property that we purchased or voted to purchase yesterday, 19th and Jacob Street. It's a property that I think when you came on to City Council, you probably weren't inclined to vote for the city to purchase that property. I know you said you had a lot of people reach out to you and say, what's the city doing here? So what was your thought process like? How did you get to the point? Because we did purchase that property by a vote of 7-0. Mm-hmm. Every single member of council voted in favor. So how did you get to that point where you felt like you were going to hit the yes button?
All right, well, so I'll be more than happy to do that. When we moved on and bought, no, I'm sorry, let's back up. When you guys bought, and I'm talking about you guys, I mean the city council a few months ago, bought OVMC and said, we're going to put not the public safety building, but the police station down there. I assumed, like a lot of people, that the 19th Street was off the radar. So when you guys put it back on the radar, I think I even might have told Glenn, like, are you serious? I thought, I was like, no way, really? I mean, we just did OVMC. We shouldn't be in the business of real estate. And I think I might have even said a few things along those lines. So at first, I was like, why are we messing with this? But it became abundantly clear and very quickly to me that leaving that property alone wasn't going to be an option. It wasn't going to be an issue. I mean, you guys put it on the agenda. It was very clear that the mayor and the four remaining returning members of council put a lot of legwork and did a lot of research concerning this property. So at that point, when I realized that we can't just let it lay, I decided, well, all right, well, let me educate myself about this. And, it wasn't, you know me, and I've said this to you guys numerous times. My big issue is capital improvements in the neighborhoods. The neighborhoods need love. They do. I mean, you guys, what's the name of the show? No Two Ways About It?
You're Wheeling, No Two Ways About It.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. And what's that about? That's because and Glenn knows this, and if it upset him, I don't think he'd name his radio show this, that you got a lot of flack that you spent a lot of time in downtown. Yes. And that the neighborhoods didn't get the love it deserves. Okay?
I think some of that's more perception than reality, but there's definitely a perception of that. Yeah.
Well said, Mayor. Yeah. Well said. It is. That is the perception. Yeah. But now that and I agree with you, that is a perception. It's an unfortunate perception. And so I wanted to move to start dealing with the neighborhoods. But what I realized is we could still do both, because you guys have done a lot of work on this 19th Street property. You've had it, you knew what needed to be done to remediate it. I mean, that's a huge step, because you hear over and over again, it's a toxic dump, it's a toxic dump. Well, it really, it was industrial, but it's not a toxic dump. Does it need to be remediated? Yes. Can we get it remediated? I think we can.
With some state?
Well, that's where I'm getting, and I know I can be long-winded and I apologize, but my thought process was no. But when you actually sit down with the city manager and other members of council, it really does economically make sense. And the reason why is everyone says make the property owner responsible, hold their feet to the fire. Well, what does that mean? That means that we would have to initiate an action against them in city court to fix any building code violations. Well, let's say that as of yesterday, the building code violations was he needed to put a few windows in and there might have been a hole in the roof. Well, history tells us he's going to go there, fix the roof in probably a cheap way, whatever, but he's going to fix the roof and put some windows in. So guess what? Now it's back up to code. And we still have that thing sitting there. And say he doesn't do that. Say he doesn't put the windows back up. Then what happens? Then you have to give him time and opportunities. This is still the United States of America, and property owners have property rights, all right? You learn that in Property 1 in law school. So we, being the government, can't trample on his rights, and he has due process. And what that means is it's going to take time to get an order to raise and remediate that. All right, so say he doesn't put those windows in and we move forward. It's going to take about a year before we would even get a raise-in order from a judge. And that raise order is going to say, isn't going to force him to magically write a check and raise and remediate the property. What it's going to do is it's going to give the city, the government, the ability to come in, raise and remediate the property, and then, and remember, and this is important, we would have to pay to raise and remediate all that upfront. And I think the numbers are somewhere from $350,000 to $400,000 to do that. So that's $350,000 to $400,000 that the taxpayers of the city of Wheeling have to pay upfront. Then, after it's raised and remediated, we put a lien on that property. And the lien means that if someone ever goes to buy that property, if they want free and clear title to that property, that lien needs to be released. The lien holder, in this case, is the city of Wheeling, in the tune of $350,000 to $400,000. So if someone comes in and offers $350,000 and that's our lien, great. The property owner will get zero money, which is not really much of an incentive for them to sell, and then our lien would be satisfied. We can release the lien and give them a good, clean title. Or the market conditions might say, look, with that, it's only going to be worth $200,000 or $1,000. So then what are we going to do? Get 50 cents on the dollar? I mean, so it's just not a good position. And I think Glenn has said this numerous times, it's just another instance of kicking the can down the road. So the lien issue is a problem. So instead of going that route, the city council paid $150,000 upfront to own the property. And the big, I think, key to that is that I understand and I respect the fact that the city taxpayers are paying that, okay? We do. I understand that, and I know why they're mad. But the other side of that, the back end of it, is we're saving, because I believe when everyone on city staff that knows this, when they say, look, I think we're going to be able to get brownfield money, I think we're going to be able to get federal and or state funds to raise and remediate this, I believe them, because that's what the track record suggests, that they know, they've done this before. This is exactly the type of situation where those loans and grants are for. So I believe, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to those representations because of past performance. All right, they've been able to do it before, and I think they're going to be able to do it again. So what that means is the raise and remediate cost, which is $350,000 to $400,000, will be not the city of Wheeling taxpayers, but it will be through federal funds managed by the state. That makes it an economic win-win, because what happens now? Now you're going to be able to get that property flat. We're going to have, what is it, about 2.8, 2.75 acres?
Yeah, I want to say it's close to 3, yes. Ballpark of 3.
It's close to 3, and the DOH is also going to make available to us some of the property which is adjacent or underneath the overpass there as well.
Right.
So for parking or other storage equipment there. So it'll actually be bigger than 3 acres when you include that property.
See, I mean, and when you look at how much money past city councils have spent on Market Street, on Main Street, and if you look at the lot that was just bought in East Wheeling, that was what, 0.78 acres, 0.8 acres, not even an acre, it went for what, 275? And it was a flat lot. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot 3 times, hopefully, God willing, if everything goes right, after this is all said and done, we'll have a lot of about 3 acres. When just a few months ago, a lot was sold in fair market value in the open market for what, 275?
I believe that's correct, yes.
So, I mean, economically, that's why I decided to vote for it. I wasn't going to just vote no just to be spiteful, okay? I mean, I understand it wasn't something that was really on my radar. It wasn't something that I wanted. That wasn't the path I wanted to go down. But after I looked at it, and I looked at the economics, it makes sense. It does. I mean, the city of Wheeling has spent more money on, I think, Dave said this yesterday, 2 trucks yesterday. So, I mean, it makes sense.
Now, Councilman, you just said that this wasn't one of the things that was on your radar when you maybe ran for city council or got elected to city council. You kind of ran on a platform of maybe stopping the hillside development, GCMP development, and then trying to take steps to reduce basement flooding. That's something that we were focused on, the previous city council was focused on. It's certainly something that we need to stay focused on over the next 4 years. But, how do you want to accomplish those priorities, and why are those the things that you ran on?
Okay, well, the issue as it relates to Woodsdale Hill. I mean, I think, oh my gosh, it seems like a lifetime ago when the election started. I mean, that was before COVID, right? But the very first video in my announcement was a video I did on my back porch with that hill in the background. So the point of me telling you that is it's a little personal. I mean, this is where I live. This is where I'm raising my family. And I think it became pretty clear that myself and most people in Ward 4, especially the people that live close to this hill, do not want a rock quarry in their backyard. We're very, very concerned, and I called it a rock quarry on my very first video. I mean, because that's what it is. I understand that their position is that they want to have some kind of mixed-use development at the very end of this long, long process. But you got to look at what they're requesting. It's an extraordinary request. They want to literally have a rock quarry in the middle of one of our neighborhoods. And I think it's a pretty nice historic neighborhood that should be preserved. Actually, I think the Wheeling Comprehensive Plan says the same thing. The hill in question, according to the Wheeling Comprehensive Plan, says it should be left for conservation, right? I agree with that. I don't think that it should be changed. Now, one of the problems with the request to change that zoning is that there's no guarantee that once they remove the millions and millions of different, I mean, I guess it's limestone, but all the different materials they want to remove from there, once it's removed, you can't put it back. And there's no guarantee that they're going to put anything on top of it because there's no bond. There's no performance bond to guarantee that they're going to finish the job. So that is my concern. I mean, at the last Wheeling Planning Commission, they even acknowledged finally that, yeah, we're going to have to blast, meaning they're going to be setting off dynamite and charges in a neighborhood in the middle of Wheeling. It's an extraordinary ask, and I just don't think that it's consistent with Wheeling's comprehensive plan. So, myself and I think most of the people in Ward 4 would agree with me. If they didn't agree, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you right now. So that's why I did it. I mean, I just don't think it's, I'm worried that it won't come to an actual end with any kind of mixed-use development. I'm concerned that it's just going to be nothing more than a rock quarry, that for how many years it's going to take while we all have to live through that. And then what happens when they remove everything and you have a nice flat piece of land? Something, maybe, maybe not, who knows? So it's just something that is very concerning, and I'm very, very, for everyone in I think Ward 4 and Ward 5, but I'm very happy that the public hearing is going to be September 14th at the Civic Center. And finally, the people will be able to come forward and supplement the emails and the letters they've already provided to the Wheeling Commission. So it'll be nice to see how that is, even though we still have to deal with COVID. I mean, this is just a weird, it's a weird, unprecedented time we're living in, no question about that. But we got to move forward because I think the property owner deserves an answer. I mean, they do. They've spent a lot of money, they spent a lot of time in this, and they deserve an answer one way or the other.
This has been something that's been dragged out for a long period of time. When we were first elected in 2016, I thought, we would be dealing with this when we were on the previous city council, and it never really came up on the agenda. So I think it is good that we can, decide one way or the other, give the residents a yes or no, and let the property owner know yes or no whether or not this is going to be approved.
Absolutely.
Jared, the other thing that I know you've really wanted to focus on, and that is important to the mayor, myself, and other members of city council, I know Councilman Thorngate's really also focused on this, is taking steps to reduce basement flooding. Woodsdale gets it, Warwood gets it, lots of neighborhoods get it after hard rain. There's all kinds of reasons why that happens, but what are some of the things that you have learned since being on city council about the steps that need taken to reduce basement flooding? Well,
the issue with basement flooding, and it's more than just basement flooding is what I've learned. And what I've learned is that Wheeling has a very old infrastructure. And what I'm talking about is the sewer systems. The sewer systems and the sanitary, or the stormwater runoff and the sewer systems are together. So what that means is you have one pipe, the sewers are going through there, and then when it rains, all the rainwater goes into the same pipe. And the reason why it's backing up is because there was these overflow drains that when this system was built, or maybe it was modified. After it was built, there was those overflow drains. And then what would happen is when it would rain hard, those drains would open up, and then the combined sewer and stormwater runoff would go into the creeks and streams. Well, for whatever reason, I think in the 70s, the EPA, it was 70s.
I think we know for what reason,
Yeah.
because that's not a very desirable outcome.
Right,
Having raw sewage going down Wheeling Creek. Actually, Wheeling Creek, going back to the 1920s, was an open sewer.
Yeah, I know. So the,
It's one of the reasons why there's not a lot of development right along Wheeling Creek throughout the city, is because for many, many years, it was an open sewer.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the AE,
Yeah.
so the governmental
The
regulatory,
EPA, yes.
EPA said, hey, I think that you
Yeah.
guys should, we should, and it's not just Wheeling, it's every city our age does that, or did that, said, okay, you guys got to close that off. And that makes sense. But the problem is now, where does that water go? And sometimes it backs up into people's basements. So, unfortunately, you guys have educated me, and we need about $280 million. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't found the money tree that you guys always talk about. But
If we knew where it was, Jerry, if we knew where it was.
right, I mean, so
Yeah.
$280 million is a significant amount of money to fix our aging infrastructure. And what I learned, and just so that everyone knows, prior to the city council meeting, we had a public works meeting. It was about an hour long, which is, I know, a little longer than you guys are used to, but
It was informative. As the new chair of the committee, I was glad you called the meeting. I think it was informative.
I think so it was too, and it
Yeah.
made me feel good, because we have an independent third party called CT Consultings that is helping us trying to fix the problem of the sewer, stormwater, well, actually everything. I mean, that's the thing that I learned. I mean, they're doing a lot of work, a lot of engineering and design work. One of the things, and the big thing that I took away from this, and I want everyone to listen, and please get a pen ready, all right? The CT Consultants, in order for them to design and fix the problems associated with the city, they need information, they need data, and specifically what they need to know is where in the city is the basement flooding occurs. I've told them, and I even mentioned it to them yesterday. I specifically said, are you taking this into consideration as you're designing the fix for this problem? And they said, absolutely. So that made me feel so much better. They said, yes, Jerry, we know. We've heard you. We know that there's basement floodings all over. We take that into consideration. So how do they get that information? I mean, they need that information from not only us as the representatives of the wards, but the people, the citizens of Wheeling should call the water pollution control whenever there is a problem with the flooding in their basements, for whatever reason, if it's the sewer backup or whatever. Putting it on Facebook is not telling the city and giving the Water Pollution Control Division of the city that information. So what they told me, or it wasn't CT, I think it was one of the staff members, said you should call the Water Pollution, and the number is 304-234-3874. All right. So what I'm saying is, if you have had water back up into your basement because of flooding, please call 304-234-3874. You can give them your name, you can give them the address, and I think the last real major issue was March 26th, around then, 28th, somewhere in March something. So if you had water come into your basement through the sewer systems, call 304-234-3874. They're going to want your name, they're going to want your address, and it would probably be a good idea to give them an approximate date of when it happened. And that way, that data is collected, that information is collected, and it's provided to the third party who's trying to solve this problem. They need that information. I can't repeat that enough. 304-234-3874.
And I think, Jerry, that's a good point that you made, that when someone receives water in their basement due to a hard rain, they need to let, Wheeling Water Pollution Control know. They need to call that number, give them their name and address, let them know what happened, roughly how much water they got. What we have seen in the past are people post stuff on Facebook, they post stuff on the ward pages, and that's not the best way to get this information to the people that need to know it. So give that number one more time.
304-234-3874. That's Water Pollution Control. If you have any kind of flooding in your basements within the last few months or within the last year, call 304-234-3874. Give them, they're going to want to know your address and when it happened. And that information can be provided so that we can fix the problem. And unfortunately, and I hate to say this, but it's not going to be fixed immediately. I mean, it's where we are, and I know, we are at phase 3A of the long-term control plan. We have $10 million worth of projects to fix that are funded. So we have the money, $10 million worth of funded projects that is going to start hopefully in October. And I think they said it'll run from October until May. And those projects are specifically dealing with the stormwater sewer separation project, and that's the Bedillion Lane project. And the Bedillion Lane project's just not there. I mean, I had, the city manager, I appreciate him being very patient with me. He printed out, he's given me so much information. He printed out that big map, the color-coded map that I had that I went over with them. I mean, I appreciate that because it shows that it's more than just Bedillion Lane. I mean, it's on Vista's going to get fixed. There's Elm's going to get fixed. Over towards, and I don't have it in front of me, over towards Miller Street's going to get fixed. So it's a good start. Unfortunately, it's not going to fix all the problems in the city, but I think it's going to alleviate, hopefully substantially, the problems in Ward 4 and Ward 5.
Biff, do we have a caller on the line? Dan, how you doing?
Yeah, I live in Ward 4. I live on Miller Street, and I can say nothing but great things about Mr. Sklavanakis and Mr. Thorngate, because Mr. Sklavanakis, after the March flooding that flooded my house, he was there on the spot. And Mr. Thorngate, it wasn't 3 weeks after the election. Mr. Jebbia was there, and they were, surveying that property right there. But I'd like to, Mr. Sklavanakis explain how the city purchasing the Calabrese property would be a benefit for the city. And the exact way he explained it to you, he explained it to me, and then it all made sense.
Dan the man, I appreciate the call, Dan. Remember that, remember that advice.
Wow.
I appreciate that, Dan.
Dan, did he ask you to call in and say nice things about him? Because we don't get these types of calls very often.
Mark it down. What's the date?
It's the day. Well, we got about a minute left here, gentlemen. Anything
Thanks,
else?
Dan.
Yeah.
Jerry, our time's running out, but, quickly, you've been on city council now for a few months. Is this roughly what you expected it to be? Has it been surprising, or, what do you think coming into it?
That's a hard question to answer. It's rewarding in the sense that I feel like I'm getting something done. And, I don't really like being on the radio and in the news. I just like to keep my head down and get the job done. So, if you don't hear from me, it's not because I'm not working. Trust me, you'll probably hear these guys complaining about me bothering them for capital improvements from now until the end of the term. But, it's a good thing. It really is. It's rewarding, and I'm glad that I did it.
Well, Jerry, we appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jerry, for coming in. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I think you did a great job hosting today. I was just kind of here helping out as I could. You're listening.
I'm getting used to,
Yeah,
taking
well,
care of.
I fill in for the mayor. Anyway, you've been listening to Your Wheeling No Two Ways About It here on the Valley's Watchdog. We'll be back next Wednesday. Have a great day.